Thank you, Madam President. I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the members of the G4, Brazil, Germany, Japan, and my own country, India. Madam President, we thank you for organizing this annual debate on an issue which remains central to the reform of the organization. As Secretary General Guterres himself has stated, no reform of the UN will be complete without the reform of the Security Council. At the outset, let me begin by expressing my gratitude to the President of the General Assembly of the 72nd session, His Excellency Mr. Miroslav Lajčák, and co-chairs Her Excellency Ms. Lana Nusibe and His Excellency Mr. Kaha Imnadze for their contribution to progress of this important process. They have left us with a result that we can build on. We hope that you and your team will effectively carry the baton handed over to you by making credible progress at this session too. In this context, we note your announcement of the appointment of co-chairs and look forward to their starting to move this process forward. Madam President, the G4 views on Security Council reforms are well established. The G4 supports the early reform of the Council. We seek the expansion of both the permanent and non-permanent categories of membership to enhance the Council's legitimacy, effectiveness, and representativeness. We also desire improvement of its working methods. It is our conviction that this sentiment is indeed shared by a broad majority of member states of the UN, including several of the groups who have spoken earlier, the African group, the CARICOM, the Arab group, the L69, and a vast number of individual states. Madam President, the intergovernmental process has been underway for a decade, and yet we have very little progress to show, despite all the efforts from the member states all these years. Next year, we will mark 40 years since the request to include the question of equitable representation on and increase in the membership of the Security Council on the General Assembly's agenda. At a time when old challenges to peace and security have become more intense and the variety of new threats are expanding, we cannot afford to delay the reform of the body charged with the maintenance of international peace and security. The emphasis on reform and change was a constant theme in the addresses during the high-level debate of the General Assembly. In several debates since then, the desire for change has been repeated, including during the open debate on multilateralism in the Security Council earlier this month. Talk now needs to be followed with action to achieve credible progress in the 73rd session. After a decade of discussions, it is time to normalize the IGN process. We need to begin negotiations like we have in other intergovernmental processes. For that to happen, certain steps need to be taken. May I elaborate? First, we must start where we culminated our deliberations in the last session. We have a document we were discussing, the revised elements of commonality and issues for further consideration paper. We need not reinvent the wheel this session. We need to start our deliberations by addressing issues where we left them in that paper. The document that was the basis of our last discussions can be the starting point of an open and transparent way forward during this session. We need to complete the task that we could not do so at the last session for want of adequate time. For our part, as the G4, we would like to have an accurate reflection of key elements of the positions of all groups in the paper. For example, the common African position that has garnered the support of a very large segment of the total membership. Second, we must endeavor to foster, not hinder dialogue. It is our belief that the more opportunities for dialogue, the greater progress. Taking the cue from success stories of the past session, we suggest that our discussions on Security Council reforms should begin at the earliest and there should not be any artificial deadline to end discussions prematurely in June. Continuous dialogue, for example, helped in ironing out differences and gaining agreement on important matters relating to global health at the end of the 72nd session. Third, the IGN should operate under normal rules of procedure, as do all other General Assembly processes. In the General Assembly, we do our work through give and take negotiations, focused on a document with the co-chairs or facilitators acting as agents for facilitating dialogue. In the General Assembly, all a naysayer can do is, at best, to cast a negative vote. What we have seen in the last couple of years does no credit to all of us. Naysayers cannot be allowed to cast a dark shadow over the entire membership and hold the overwhelming majority back. Some amongst us cannot hold the entire process hostage by bending the rules of negotiations. If we permit this, we stand the risk of breaking the process beyond repair. Madam President, credible progress on this issue will require your commitment and leadership and supporting efforts in facilitating discussions between different groups and countries. The G4, while having a common position, are also respectful of different positions existing in this process. We are committed to negotiating with all groups, but for negotiations to be meaningful, it is crucial to list the various aspects of the different positions. Thus, it is crucial that we work on a text for negotiations. The desire for text-based negotiations is not a slogan. It is a necessity for a transparent and good faith negotiating process. A text reflecting all positions and proposals from member states will be a mark of credibility of the process going forward. If we fail, we must not hesitate in taking a relook at the process itself. We remain open to all options. Madam President, next year, you will be handing over the presidency to an African president of the General Assembly, who will usher us all into the 75th year of this organization. Let our work in this session do justice to the aspirations of our people, especially from the African continent, so that we can find a way to correct the historical injustice to Africa and to address their sense of grievance. For our part, I assure you that you will find the G4 on the side of progress